On this episode, local governments and obtaining a budget for maintaining WSUD assets and the important step of briefing up. This is the step where if we get it right, a maintenance budget can actually come through. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. And welcome back to our mini-series where we are looking at how local governments can go about getting a budget for maintaining their water-sensitive urban design assets. Now in this series, we're not saying that this is the only process by which you could go through, but this is a process that I've observed local governments who have successfully got a budget. I've observed them go through a process like this, similar to this. And so we're talking through it in this series. Now we're getting a long way down things now. We're in episode 127, and we are in briefing up. So we've done a whole bunch of foundational work at this stage to get the knowledge about our assets, get the knowledge about their condition, decide which department should be responsible for maintenance. We've built a business case about how to do it. We know who we physically want to do the work, so which department's managing the work, but who's physically going and doing it. And now is the time to put this all together and brief up with it and go, this is what we want. Can you support us? Can you help us make this happen? So in the business case part, we noted that we had to decide who we were convincing, who we actually briefing up to. And in most instances, when it comes to this local government WSUD maintenance conundrum, we are briefing up to upper management and we're briefing up to the politicians. Need both of them on side if this is going to work, because they're the ones who ultimately control the budget in a local government. Now, the local government, there's one particular instance when I think about briefing up to convince politicians, to convince local government to provide a budget for this in the past. There's one example that I know of that really springs to mind where a local government got this spot on. And it went like this. So earlier on, back in episode 124, we talked about how to decide which department should be responsible for the maintenance. And we noted that there's probably in most local governments 3 possible choices for that. There's the stormwater drainage department, there's the parks department, and there's natural areas department. They're all maintenance departments, but they've all got their individual areas that they look after. And up at this step here, those 3 departments needed to get together and decide which of them was the logical department to do the works, and for that department to go, okay, it logically is us, let's all work together to get the budget in the right spot so we can solve this conundrum for all of us. Well, this is where it's really important for that briefing that even though one department's put their hand up at this point, that all 3 of them are still on this and still solving the problem. Because the local government that I saw get this spot on and get this best did something really neat here. Once they'd worked out these other steps here, they briefed up, and because there's an assumption here that this is officer driven, those 3 local governments briefed up to their management simultaneously and one common message. So they all, because the management in each of these departments knew about this water-sensitive urban design asset, or these water-sensitive urban design assets needing to be maintained, and all those conundrums about who should do it and how much should it cost. The problem is that by this stage, with this stuff being implemented for so long in these local governments without a budget getting decided, there's a lot of confusion and the waters are really muddied. People they've heard all sorts of different opinions. Clarity and consistency is really key. Any proposal that can get those 3 departments, the officers of those 3 departments to go, we agree, is going to have a really, really high chance of being supported. So in the case of the local government that I'm thinking of, officers from each of those 3 departments simultaneously, or as close to simultaneously as possible, went to their manager, to the parks guy or girl, went to the parks manager. The stormwater person went to the stormwater manager. Natural areas person went to the natural areas manager, and they all said, hey, paraphrasing obviously, hey, I know that you know this stuff's a problem. I know that it's a headache for you. You manage our department and it's not clear who's responsible for this stuff. I know it's a headache for you. We, being the officers of the 3 departments, have got together and we have a proposal for how to solve this. And we all agree on it. In fact, this afternoon, such and such is briefing up to their manager, and tomorrow so-and-so is briefing up to their manager. And what we think is this. We've sat down and we've thought about which department is most appropriate to do the maintenance based on skill set. And you know what? It's us. I know that's really challenging. But we've also done this business case, and you can see where that discussion would go from there. Obviously, you need to think about, in the business case, what that manager is going to care about and be interested in hearing about. But the beauty of what this local government that I'm thinking of did was that they briefed up simultaneously and on message and on common message. Because what for the manager that says is, oh, potential green light. I can take this knowledge that I'm being briefed, and I'm going to take it and I'm immediately going to go to those other managers, and they will have just heard the same thing from their staff. We have a golden opportunity to agree on this right now. And that was the neatness of this briefing up that happened. Then, of course, what happens with managerial support, then stuff needs to go to council. And this is where some of the business case stuff gets into it. Because, for example, I suspect here that the management is more interested in potential, I think often what can grab the management in this space is the fact that, wait, hang on, we're all agreeing on this headache could go away. Sweet. I'm on board just because there's agreement here and the proposal sounds vaguely logical. If, however, we want to actually get it further up, get it through the political case, we then start to bring in potentially more of this business case of, okay, this is exactly how much we're asking for. It's going to cost this much. We're going to do this with it. It's building in a little bit more of this stuff and continue with the briefing up. And I've seen quite a number of local governments when they've got this information behind it, they brief up management in a sequential way and then go to the politicians with management support from each of the 3 departments up here. There's just that very real chance that we're going to get a thumbs up and a tick of approval for the budget. And that's it. That's it for this episode, briefing up. You know what? There's probably lots more nuances in how to make that work. I have faith though, and I trust though, that if you're the local, you're a local government officer watching this, right? You know how the system works here. You are used to briefing up in this situation. I have faith that you will work out the nuances here, but it's that process of how we start to tie this all together and get the 3 departments to brief simultaneously to their management that is, I think, the real value add and the real WSUD specific value add. So take that, take your existing wealth of knowledge about how to work within the local government structure within which it is that you work and apply them together. Use that common sense, use that nous that you've got, that skill set that you've got, and you'll get that briefing up just right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.